Good morning, class. Welcome to Jesus Time today. It is Wednesday, which means today is our drawing day. Let's begin with our Jesus Time run. This is my Bible. I open it wide and learn about Jesus from the words inside. And we're still working with Psalm 56 verses 3 and 4. When I am afraid, I will trust in you, in God whose word I praise. Let's go ahead and sing that together. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God whose word I praise. And we are still talking about the Beasties in Egypt. So the Beasties are all of those plagues that happened, the 10 plagues that included flies and gnats and locusts and frogs and the animals that got sick. But today's the drawing day, so I made one of my accordion folds to help us remember the words in our book for our lesson for the week. So here we have my mean face and my sad and mad face. The Egyptians were the meanies, right? They were the mean guys that were making the Israelites their slaves. And the Israelites were sad and mad, right? They didn't like being a slave, but they were in Egypt. And we read yesterday from the Bible, they were in Egypt for 430 years. And probably a lot of that time was spent in slavery. But God had a plan. He had a plan for a man named Moses. And Moses, there it is, got a little smushed. M-O-S-E, that's another S there. Moses was the leader that God had chosen to lead the people, the Israelites, out of Egypt and onto their own land, a land where they wouldn't be slaves anymore. But Pharaoh didn't want to lose his slaves, so he wouldn't let them go, would he? Then God had to send the 10 plagues, those 10 things that happened that were sad and hurtful and painful, those 10 things that happened that finally, after those 10 things happened, Pharaoh said, "Go! Get out of Egypt! We don't want you here anymore!" And then the Israelites were happy because they got to leave. They didn't have to be slaves anymore. God was taking care of them, and he helped them get out of Egypt, using Moses as their leader so they could get out of the bad land to a better land. And it's a sad story, isn't it? And we'll talk more about those emotions tomorrow. Thinking of people that were being mean and 10 things that happened that were scary and sad and maybe painful. But then trusting that God's going to take care of it, and he's got his plan to make sure that his Israelites, his people, were taken care of. And that makes me think of a song that we've been singing quite a bit lately. He's got the whole world in his hands. So let's sing a verse or two of that before we say goodbye. He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got you and me in his hands. He's got you and me in his hands. He's got you and me in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got all of our families in his hands. He's got all of our families in his hands. He's got all of our families in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a very blessed day, and I will see you tomorrow.